It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we move into a Thursday. Gary, how are you?
Memories. Hey, you want to play some? There's a classic rock. How about some classic politics?
All right, classic talk here.
Well,
Red Eye. Let's get Bob Seger on the phone.
Rocktober, only a few months away.
We're going to be talking some Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin.
No, the classic BS. When I say classic politics, it should be classic BS because we are now in the longest period of high inflation since the 1980s, 38 straight months above 3%. Remember what we were told.
All right.
And this is a thing that we talk about. Every major issue that we have, we've been lied to about.
Yeah.
And here it is. Let's go back and look at what we were told about what inflation was going to be.
I really doubt that we're going to see an inflationary cycle.
It will have a temporary or transitory impact.
The faster than expected increase in some of those prices is actually a good sign.
The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great,
This is something that will settle down.
Transitory.
Most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary. It's highly unlikely that it's going to be long-term inflation that's going to get out of hand. I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation.
Over the last couple of months, we actually saw it trended downward.
President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, enthusiastically retweeted an economist who had said in part most of the economic problems we're facing, inflation, supply chains, et cetera, are high-class problems.
The number one thing that the president can do is help get COVID under control. That we know is the root cause of inflation.
President Biden this afternoon saying he thinks we're at the peak of the crisis right now and that lower prices are on the way.
The inflation has everything to do with the supply chain. Make no mistake, inflation is largely the fault of Putin.
If you want to get rid of inflation, the only way to do it is to undo a lot of the Trump tax cuts.
Our inflation rates are lower than other nations in the world.
The inflation we're seeing is due to the pandemic.
When inflation hit a new high last week, the administration and President Biden called the numbers out of date.
I just want to say a number. 0. Today, we received news that our economy had 0% inflation.
When I hear people talk about inflation, as I heard him there, we have to change that subject. Inflation is a global phenomenon.
There you go.
By the way, when an elitist says, I don't know anybody who's worried about inflation, that could well be true. None of their friends are actually worried about it. They're affected by it, but they're not worried about it.
Oh.
That kind of popped my little tiny brain.
That goes back to what I was there was a story out yesterday about when Biden said that Hunter is the finest person I know. And I went, well, that's probably true.
I get that. Yeah.
Right.
He is.
I wasn't. Look, we know the president is a pathological liar, but when he tells the truth,
we want to
make sure we tell. So don't ever say, well, you guys are always saying he doesn't tell the truth on anything.
Right.
He did. When he said Hunter is the finest person he knows,
yes,
he was telling the truth.
Yes. That's right there at the top of the game. Hunter's it.
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh!
So
everybody keeps using the meme for from Smokey and the Bandit, Jackie Gleason.
Oh man!
Biden would be the Jackie Gleason, and then Hunter would be Junior. Oh, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. Yeah. We talked about this with the Fed, the Wall Street Journal doing a piece. And at first I thought they were kind of going down the road I was going on about what the Fed is, their move, what their next move might be. Powell has never been, ever been, in my opinion, as chair, he's never been serious about inflation. And here's the title of the article that caught my opinion at Wall Street Journal. Stung by past mistakes, a wary Fed takes its time. Well, okay. What I have said is, if you come in an election year, I know there's so much to unpack on that, but you come in an election year as Jerome Powell, you've never been serious about inflation, but then you decide if he had decided at some point he was going to raise interest rates this year, that would be, of course, that's a problem. You can't do that. Lowering interest rates is too soon, but I would agree with the overall theme of the article, and that is they have moved too slow. Basically, they've moved too slow on everything, and this entire thing of creating a soft landing. Did we go into a recession? No. But if Americans are still underwater every month, and they are, and it's going to go on for quite some time. When you look at the inflation numbers for May and the year over year, again, this is compounding, where we're talking 3.4% over last year. And that's the prices going up further and further and further.
And that was core CPI.
Yeah, core CPI. And that's the problem, is that prices aren't coming down. But prices aren't going to come down because they historically don't come down in a big way across the board, unless you're in a massive recession or the Great Depression, of course. And you don't want that. But you seriously want to get on top of it. Was he going to have to make a Volcker move from the 80s? No, but he was going to have to do something bigger and to get on top of that, because when you see that peak at, 9.2? Well, that should have been your red flag. That's the red alert, all hands on deck. But what we heard is exactly what you heard in the audio. It's transitory, and it was building to that peak level at that time when they started this transitory thing. And it's garbage. Another thing that hit me is that I can't trust one thing that any of them say. Janet Yellen, the Fed chair, Biden, the media, none of it. I mean, I didn't, God rest his soul. Toby Keith wrote a great song, Don't Let the Old Man In. I can't help it because I feel like I'm letting the old man in when I can't trust any of them bums. Throw all the bums out. But honestly, there's no one in this administration that I trust. No one.
I know it's lagging because I'm looking right here that super core inflation was 5.01% in March of 2024, and this came out on May 17th. So I'm probably expecting you're going to get April. It looks like the super core is delayed. I haven't been able to find it here in the last 5 minutes. I was looking because we talk about inflation. Inflation is all the products out there. Basically,
right.
The core inflation are, you take out gasoline, you take out food
right.
In there, but super core inflation is the things that people actually buy,
right.
and that's been higher than both of those particular numbers, which is what people actually feel.
That's it, and because we are not going to get prices aren't going to go back to 2018, 2019 levels. That's not going to happen, and I don't know how many analysts have said that now. So what is the remedy? The remedy is to create wealth, greater wealth, a huge wealth expansion, which increases the buying power of every family. And it's what we do best as a nation, as a society, as Americans. We've done it better than anybody over the history of our country. And, it really starts with things like energy. We've talked about it, oil and natural gas that's in the ground. that in the ground has no use and no demand. But the moment you bring it above ground and process it, the entire world wants it, is willing to pay for it. And under the guise of we're saving the planet, which has been falling short for decades, and these incredible mandates that are crushing people more and more. You're paying for EVs even if you don't own an EV. Whether it's the tax benefits that go to people that buy them or the cost of every other vehicle on the road that the OEMs have to pass along to make those vehicles more profitable. And now you're getting into the arena of, now you're getting into the a time span now that new vehicles right now are slowing down because of the fact that people just can't afford them and higher interest rates. What are you going to do? You know, this idea of the Fed doing maybe one interest rate drop later this year, that's going to do nothing. That's not going to change anything. And it was going to be,
what, 0.25 is what they're throwing. And remember, that was down from what they had predicted in March. They had 3 cuts in March. Now they're down to possibly 1 cut.
Right. And
so understand that that's different than the economists that say, we don't believe there's going to be any cuts this year.
Well, the thing is that as late as March, we had economists still saying, well, maybe they only do a half a dozen this year. Half a dozen? What are you smoking? And you got to be joking, because that would be a desperate move. The ship is on fire. The captain's not even thinking about going down with the ship. We're just going to slash everything and keep inflation high as we're out the door. Of course, November 6th, they may have something different planned if they lose the election, and why not just throw it into a downward spiral? But seriously, they're not going to get to. I don't know that I don't have confidence they're going to get to even one cut this year.
When you have food prices aren't going down; they may be going up slower, but you still, every time you go there, every time I go to the grocery store, I'm like, oh my god. But when you look at the other things, I've got my housing insurance coming in, and I looked at it and I was like, okay, that's up in 2 years about $1,400.
Yeah,
house insurance, car insurance also up. I don't know precisely what, but that is up, and we've talked about that before. Those are things that you have to pay. Cars are just untouchable for most people right now.
Right.
It really, really is. So you talk about the two things that people really, really need, and that's where you get into the super core inflation numbers. And so we've and then mortgage rates to begin with. Housing overall, housing was up more than other things. So the things that people actually buy, there's no relief.
No, there isn't.
And so every time that they talk about it, all right, this great success, they've heard it for so long. They've been BS'd so long, and this is something, prices is something that affects people every day, that they're just like, shut up, stop telling me I should be celebrating. Where should I be celebrating?
Right.
Because as you've always said, the inflation number, when it comes out, people have already felt that, they felt that last month.
Exactly. They paid for it in May.
Right. So when you're telling them that, oh, wow, things are great and looking up and everything, you're like, where? And then you like I said, I when I got my, I think what is it today? Oh, they deducted it yesterday. It's an automatic deduction for it. I looked and I went, wow. You're just like, okay, this just keeps going up and up and up and up and up.
And there's no one in sight. And, Chef Andrew Gruel, who is I think a great critical thinker and a restaurateur, and he posted something, I think it was in response to an article about In-N-Out Burger and California and the minimum wage and the whole thing. And he made the point that we've made, and he said, look, at In-N-Out Burger, they've had close to $20 an hour for a while, actually. And as a company, if they want to continue to stand out, now they have to raise it even further. And so they pass along. But he pointed out, and he's done this before, that with restaurants, it's not just that, or any commercial business, any business. It's the cost of the insurance. It's the cost of rent. It's the cost of everything else. And they have to pass that on to the consumer. And you may say, well, you know what? I don't need fast food in my life. Anyway, but you know what? Over 10,000 workers in California now are without jobs as a result of government policy, state policy there on their minimum wage. These are all decisions made by humans. These are all decisions made by people that we told them to make. All of them. There isn't anything on the table right now that isn't in that category. These are all decisions that, and we can change. But do I expect California to go the other direction? No, not in my lifetime.
And that's that's the one thing that we have discussed over and over again, probably some in our audience getting sick of it, but you have to, when the people in power keep telling you the same lies, you have to keep pounding what the truth is over and over again, because they continue to sell the same lies every single day. But every major issue we face today is because of the decisions of the people that we have put into political office.
Yes.
Every challenge we face today. So the people that you hire people to work for you. And when you hire them, you expect that they're going to make you a profit.
Right.
And that they're going to do the right thing. And everybody that you hire is doing the wrong thing. And you keep hiring that same type of person over and over again, or you don't fire that person. But the people that you put into political office that are supposed to make your life easier are making your life harder, and in many cases, for many people right now, because of inflation, a living hell.
Yes.
Every day people are going to sleep, thinking, how am I going to get through? Yeah. What is it, 60% of people living paycheck to paycheck?
Oh, yeah.
My God. I mean, every single day.
And their personal debt is on the rise.
Yeah.
And their ability to repay that debt is dropping.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Every driver knows the cost of replacing tires is a major expense. What if you could save on tire costs without sacrificing performance or safety? Consider retreads, a sustainable, cost-effective way to rack up your miles. The lower price tag of retreads might make it feel like you're sacrificing performance, but many of the quality retreads available today have proven to perform comparable to new tires. Plus, dependable tire performance also has to do with choosing the right retreads for your application and adopting a tire maintenance routine. Determining the position in which your retreads will be placed and what application they'll be used in should be the first steps you take when purchasing tires, whether new or retreads.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So while there was celebration yesterday in the markets, and I'm sure in the administration, that the inflation rate remained flat, when you see what Jerome Powell did, when they look out at inflation and where it's going to be going, the CPI is going to be higher than they thought, extrapolating it out for the next 6 months.
Right. Yeah. Month to month, it was flat.
Right.
So it's
but looking forward, that's why they went from 3 rate cuts to only 1 possible rate cut of 0.25%.
Right.
Because they extrapolated out, they're saying, okay, we're not going to reach the targets that we thought we were going to reach. So what the message actually is it's going to be higher than we thought it was going to be. And that's the message from Jerome Powell.
Well, and if they're saying right now, okay, we're going from 3 to 1, then that tells me, it's something big, I think, would have to happen for them to go to 1 even. And I don't expect, I've been saying all along, I don't expect them to have a rate cut this year. And it's pretty clear right now, inflation's not done.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. We appreciate it. Download our Red Eye Radio app, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight.
And thank you.
One of our great radio stations that carries us, and thank you to all the radio stations that carry us.
Yeah.
So,
we're on some cool stations.
So I will say this. Yesterday was another day where I just went, okay, Republicans are winning the argument. And I know, one of the things, I haven't heard it yet, but I know I'm going to hear it. I didn't even see it on social media yet. The whole Merick Garland being held in contempt, basically a criminal referral for not allowing the Hur Biden audio recording to be released. The Democrats don't have an argument. And I know people are saying, yeah, but nothing's going to happen to Merick Garland. That's not the point.
Right.
The point is, as we have stated, and this is something that, thank you. You remember when I said it back in November of 2022? Yeah. Yeah, November. Because when they retook the House. When Republicans retook the House. And I said, look, nothing's going to get done. What you do now is you attempt to win every argument. That's what you attempt to do. Because if you don't have the Senate and you don't have the executive branch, you're not going to get anywhere. So what you do over the next 2 years is you win every argument.
Right.
And I know it gets frustrating to people because some people say, well, these people need to go to jail for what they're doing. They need to be held accountable. They're trying to put Trump in jail. You're limited when you only have the House. The Department of Justice is not going to jail Merick Garland.
No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, they're not going to prosecute Merick Garland. That isn't going to happen. But what you do is you win every single argument. And yesterday was a day where the Republicans just dominated on every argument, which was the border, the 8 terrorist crossing. And I have to tell you, CNN just pounding on it. We'll get just some of the things that they were running actually on CNN yesterday. And even we'll play this audio cut coming up a little bit later on. But Jake Tapper going after Goldman.
Yeah.
And Goldman just couldn't they lose on both of those every single argument.
Yeah.
And for example, on the subpoena for the tape that Garland said, no, you're not going to get it. He came out and talked about, the statement. If you saw the statement from the Department of Justice, it was the whole thing of executive privilege. That's bogus.
Right.
There is no executive privilege. You allowed the transcript to be released.
Yeah.
You allowed the transcript to be released, and therefore this is simply the audio cut. You can't claim you don't have executive privilege on one and then claim that the exact same information but simply in audio form magically gets executive privilege. You cannot make that argument. It's a bogus argument.
Right.
But all they have is bogus arguments.
Yeah.
Then the second argument, Goldman made it yesterday when he was saying, well, the problem is that if we release it, then people might not cooperate with the Department of Justice in the future. That's also bogus because you released a transcript.
Right, exactly.
You released a transcript, and so that's bogus. Oh, yeah, so you're going to have a future criminal go, well, I'm going to cooperate with you, but only if you release the transcript and not the audio tape of it.
Right.
It's a bogus argument.
Right.
And Jake Tapper was making that case. And the other argument that makes it slam dunk, absolutely slam dunk, is, and by the way, I think every Democrat voted against forcing Merick Garland to do it, and the Republicans made this case yesterday. All the mainstream media wants the audio released.
Yeah, they do.
All the mainstream media wants it. So when you're trying to make the case, only the Republicans are doing it. Not just the Republicans.
No.
And they went through the Washington Post, ABC, NBC, CBS, Reuters.
Yep.
They went through Associated Press. They all want it released. Everyone. So they lost that particular argument. But the biggest argument that they're losing on, that Republicans even need to hit more, is the fact of Hur came out and said that Biden did broke the law, but we're not going to prosecute because he doesn't have the mental capability of being a witness on the stand.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The White House has denied that.
Right.
The White House disagrees with what the special counsel said.
Right.
So Congress has an absolute right to say, well, wait a minute. Department of Justice is saying this guy isn't even capable of standing trial. The White House is vehemently disagreeing with it. You've given us the transcript, which is damning to the president. We need to know what the audio is of this so we see whether you made Department of Justice, whether you're making a political decision to go after the White House.
Yeah.
Or there's actually substance to the fact that the president is incapable of standing trial.
Right. No, according to the White House, Joe Biden would impress the jury so much. My gosh, there would be no prosecution because they've never seen anybody so energetic.
Well, no, there would
mindful.
be. No, there would be a prosecution.
Well, no. Just based on his energy, they're going to let him go. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
we've never seen anybody like he's charismatic, and wow, I've never seen any.
So what you're saying is either way, they weren't going to prosecute.
Well, I'm just trying to make light of the ridiculous garbage they're trying to sell from the White House.
But any Democrat, tell us where any of our argument is wrong. You can't. You can't argue it, and that's the thing. I thought about it again yesterday. I'm like, we're not. I'm not an Einstein.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to be an Einstein to figure these things out. These things are quite simple. And I'm like, my God, I was thinking about this yesterday, just shaking my head. And this is when I was watching Jake Tapper and Goldman. And I'm like, my God, they cannot make a coherent argument for any issue right now. They can't make it.
Right.
And I'm like, I've never seen this. I've been doing this now, talk radio for 35 years, but covering the news for 42.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen this. I've never seen where every single major issue, the one party has the slam dunk argument on every single major issue. And the other side is just, flailing along saying, well, but you guys suck.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, well, you're wrong here because this. You make a solid argument, but you suck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what's going on.
No, that's actually where we are politically right now. That's the political landscape. Biden's horrible. There's no way I'm voting for Trump. And that's you're in a situation right now where people are getting crushed by high crime, the border, inflation, and who knows what our enemies are planning for us is looming right now, and still their disdain for one person.
And very quickly, just on the whole, you saw the stories out there about the murder rate up in so many cities.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, it's like, well, crime is down, but murders are up. You can't hide murders. You have to prosecute them.
Exactly.
We've talked about the fact, well, they're not prosecuting all these other crimes that they used to prosecute, but murder, you've got to prosecute.
Exactly.
And the first thing that entered my mind, and I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for somebody to do the analysis on this.
Yeah, you can clean the dockets of a lot of crimes, but you cannot wipe those off of the docket. You just can't. You have to go after them, and it's a great point. But everybody sees it. They see the level of crime rising in those neighborhoods, in those major blue cities right now. And what do? Look, far too many people can't afford or just can't leave for whatever reason. They can't just get up and move. And there's still some people calling for defunding the police. That remnant, the spirit of defund the police, I think is going to be with us probably for my lifetime, and we've created it. It is that underlying disdain for law enforcement in general. It goes back to defund the police, abolish ICE, all of this. And They've created that mindset to carry on to the point that no one wants to serve in those communities as a police officer. It's really hard right now with recruiting. I mean, it is brutal. I have a nephew that is a police officer in a small town, and he makes a lot of pretty good, for him, especially compared to his normal pay, extra pay by filling in elsewhere. And he has to travel a couple hours to do that every couple of weeks. And these towns and cities both are hurting. Suburbs are better because the pay is better. The crime and the cities and the mayors and the city councils want the crime taken care of. But I have to tell you, it is getting worse in suburbs too. It's not just the heart of cities and major cities. Crime is on the rise across the board, and it's because, as a society, we allowed that garbage of defund the police to happen. And it set the tone. It created a new underlying mindset. They may not be shouting those words, but they're thinking those thoughts, and that's what counts.
You and I, when we go all the way back, because when you look at the arguments on every single major issue, it's delusional from the Democrats. And we stated this a long time ago, where people still, we talked about the radical transgender movement, where people said, well, it's a distraction. Well, the question was asked, is it a distraction? Mm-hmm. Is it they're using it as a distraction? No. The liberalism has brainwashed. There's a study out. 60%, I think Breitbart had it, where it said 60% of Democrats don't understand basic biology. Well, you have to brainwash from a very young age students to believe that, to get to the point where people actually are out there promoting the fact. And remember, that argument's the poorest argument that you could ever that you could ever come up with.
Right.
Which is, a man can be a woman if a man wishes to be a woman.
Right.
Well, they can't. Biologically, they can't. And for a while, they said, well, you've got gender is different from sex. Now they don't say that, which is why they believe 99% of Democrats on the federal level in Congress believe, because they voted for the equity bill, now it didn't pass, but that they were 99% of Democrats voted that a man should compete against a woman in sports.
Right.
That's the official position of the Democratic Party, and that's because they believe a man can become a woman when a man says they're a woman, and vice versa, which, of course, is absolutely insane. And if you don't agree with them on that, if you say, no, that's wrong, let's get into what your thought process is on this. Well, then they say, well, that's transphobic and you're bigoted, because even asking questions can cause transgenders to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And their suicide rate is way greater. Well, then maybe you should hold back on removing private parts of minors.
Yeah.
If the suicide rate is way over the normal population, maybe you have a problem here. No, there's no problem, and you saying there's a problem will cause even more to commit suicide.
And if you deny the mutilation, then you're a child abuser. That's how far they've gone.
I mean, and the argument is now, but when you have half or more of a majority of Democrats believing that, well, if you can convince, and we said this a long time ago, if you can convince people that that's true, then every other issue you don't have to make any type of sense on whatsoever.
Right.
If you can sell that to the American public, and they have successfully sold it to a significant portion of the American public, where it's now, as we see with this administration, the executive orders are in to change Title IX. Yeah. Well, then it's official. It's mainstream that insanity is mainstreamed in the Democratic Party.
Yep.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, and you brought up the other point And we'll get to Goldman's comment on CNN yesterday saying, well, if you release this, it could also be manipulated.
Yeah,
that
right.
AI and everything else could be manipulated. Well, that's bogus because everybody gets their own individual copy, including all the mainstream media that is screaming for it. If Republicans came in and manipulated the audio, you'd have the Washington Post and you'd have the
Reuters and everybody else.
Associated Press screaming that
they would fact check the GOP, basically.
And it's a stupid argument because if you're going to use the argument that anything can be manipulated,
then you release nothing.
By the way, text or audio,
right?
Anything can
means,
be manipulated. That means no transparency from the government because it might be manipulated by AI.
In fact, no recording devices at all in any room where the president ever speaks ever again.
Right, because it can be manipulated.
Exactly.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Here we are. We made it to a Thursday. Woohoo! But just sitting here during the hour and just thinking about the last hour and just thinking about, the last couple of years, and I know I said it last hour, but I've got to tell you that I find it amazing that on every single major issue that the public is concerned about right now, the top 6 or 7 issues, the Democrats can't make an argument on anything right now, except Trump sucks.
Yeah,
that's it. But they can't make all the issues out there, and every single major issue that the public is concerned about, the reason that we have those challenges and problems in our society is because of the people, the Democrats that you have put into public office.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on the debt, I will say a smaller part of Republicans have been also responsible for excess spending, but it's the Democrats still lead on that one too.
Yeah.
But it's just they just don't have an argument on anything. And the border stuff. Oh, the border stuff yesterday. We'll have some of that stuff coming up. Just killer. I mean, just the stuff on CNN alone was just absolutely devastating towards the administration. I'm still shocked that Republicans don't have, for example, a generic lead of 15 points. Because you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it should be the case that across the board right now, because I've never seen it where we're at this point. Not only is everything broken, everything's on fire. There's a fire in each direction you turn. There's no way to go. There's nowhere to go. And they should be polling through the roof right now.
Well, when you see, for example, in this near the Pew Research poll out, nearly 60% of President Biden's supporters do not subscribe to the biological reality of male and female. A new Pew Research Center survey found 59% of Biden voters say whether a person is a man or a woman can be different from sex assigned at birth, compared to 39% who say gender is determined by sex assigned at birth. Broken down by subgroups, Biden supporters without college degrees, 47% are more likely than those with degrees to believe in biological reality, which means the cancer, the propaganda is in colleges.
Yeah, right.
The absolute delusional propaganda is in colleges.
Yep.
According to the poll, in contrast, only 29% of young Biden voters believe under 35 believe that sex is immutable. Nearly two-thirds of black voters who support Biden, 64% say gender is determined by a person's sex at assigned birth. That compares to 46% of Biden's Hispanic supporters and smaller shares of his white and Asian supporters, according to the survey report. Supporters of former Donald Trump are astoundingly more likely to believe in the unchanging reality of male and female. The poll found 90% of Trump voters believe human beings are born male and female, and they rejected the delusion that one can become or identify as the opposite sex. Wow. Pew Research additionally found that Biden supporters are more than 3 times as likely as Trump supporters to say they are comfortable with the use of they, them pronouns, 66% versus 20%. When you can convince a population, the delusion, the complete non-scientific delusion that a man can be a woman whenever a man says so, therefore a man should be able to compete against women in sports, then you can convince them of anything, everything. Because if that's your base, and that's the one that really started about 10 years ago.
Right.
And then everything else came in, critical race theory. All whites are culturally racist. And by the way, since all whites are culturally racist, it means all black people should think the same. When you can sell the delusion of the radical transgender movement, then you can sell we judge people by groups and not individuals. You can sell racism. You can sell defund the police. You can sell anti-terrorism, pro-terrorist mindset. You can sell Jewish hatred and anti-Semitism. All these things, once you start with something that is so delusional, you can sell everything else that comes along with that delusion, and that's where the Democratic Party sits right now, where nobody in the Democratic Party seems to be upset about what's going on at the border. They don't care. They don't care if terrorists come in. They just don't care. But to show you how bad it is, I'm going to play a couple of audio cuts. The first one I want to play, let me find it here. Okay, this is DeSantis yesterday. And a reporter asked the question, your office told us that you plan to appeal the gender-affirming ruling from yesterday. So my question today, since we're talking about the budget of taxpayer dollars, why should the taxpayer dollars go to this case for appeal? And here it is, okay? Just so you can hear this, because it's like DeSantis, like what people what? You're nuts. Here we go. All right.
Your office told us that you plan to appeal the gender-affirming ruling from yesterday. So my question today, since we're talking about the budget and taxpayer dollars, why should taxpayer dollars go to this case for the appeal?
Because it's wrong to mutilate minors. It is wrong. It is wrong to perform a sex change on a 16-year-old. You're not allowed to get a tattoo, but somehow you can have your privates cut off. Give me a break. This is wrong. And I would also say this has already been decided by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. They upheld Alabama's law, which was almost identical to Florida's law. This will be reversed. There's no question it'll be reversed. Think about it. When the Founding Fathers were creating the Constitution and when the first Congress passed the Bill of Rights, or even when they passed the Reconstruction Amendments in the 1860s, do you think a single person involved in that thought that there was a constitutional right to do this genital mutilation? It's ridiculous. Of course a state can protect children against this, and we had very powerful testimony how this is irreversible. But this idea of using tax dollars, because like the media will point out, oh, the state is spending money to do. So if you say that we shouldn't do that, You're saying that any liberal judge should be able to veto the policy of the state of Florida because they go to the same judges every time, we lose almost every time, and then we win on appeal almost every time. That's what happens. So if you're not willing to defend Florida's duly enacted statutes against liberal jurisprudence, then you're basically saying the people of Florida shouldn't govern themselves and that we should just turn over our destiny to some trial judge somewhere. That I refuse to do.
There you go. But it's so funny because that's where the liberals, okay, we'll be able to get some conservative support. We're going to say, well, if you appeal this, it's going to cost taxpayer dollars.
Right.
And you don't want to spend taxpayer dollars on
Yeah,
this.
right.
And therefore, we're going to get a win. And you heard DeSantis go like, what the hell are you talking about? Cutting off the privates of minors. Are you out of your freaking minds?
Well, that's the thing is that, oh, don't go saving all of these children. It's going to cost taxpayers money. They don't understand what they're even saying. There's no self-awareness.
And I had to play that one first because that's, like I said, that's the delusion that started about 10 years ago. And we had warned when nobody was talking about it, we were.
Yep. And
people say, oh, guys,
well,
what are you bigoted against it? No, we just know where it's going.
And then the slippery slope thing. Yeah, you guys and your slippery slope. There was no way it wasn't going to get to this point. There was no way. And they're fighting harder than ever before. To the point of, again, if you deny that child their right, it's not a right.
Oh, my God.
For them to have genital mutilation surgery, even if you're their parent, your legal guardian, the person that brought them into the world, doesn't have any rights according to the far left. Sorry, that's abusive. We'll take your rights as parents. We'll take your children. They're having those conversations right now.
Yeah. If you don't allow your child to make the decision to mutilate their genitals, well, then you'll lose your child, and the state will ensure that the child can cut off their private parts.
Exactly.
These people are absolutely crazy. And then if you say, look, we need to have a discussion on it, no, because if there's a discussion on it, transgenders have such a higher rate of suicide that you're going to drive them to suicide if you don't allow minors to mutilate themselves.
Yeah.
That's the actual argument.
Yes.
It's nuts.
Yes, no, it is. It's so far off the deep end. It is so far off the deep end. These people, anybody, any surgeon doing genital mutilation surgery on a minor should be in prison for life. Prison for life.
Well, you saw that the doctor here, the doctor in Dallas, that the Department of Justice is going after.
And they should.
And
I'm sorry, was it the doctor that committed the surgery or did the surgery?
No, the doctor that exposed it.
Oh, okay.
And the Department of Justice is going after them.
Oh,
going
okay.
after for violations of the HIPAA law, and it's like no, there was no name in there whatsoever. They simply, again, the state of Texas doesn't allow it,
right?
And the hospital said they weren't doing it, and the doctor exposed it. And I was reading the National Review article, and they said this doctor made sure that any names or anything of that individual person,
you don't get to hide your you don't get the and this is what they're doing. That's the Department of Justice's take. Well, we'll just hide it under HIPAA. Think about that. Anybody who tries to expose anything, we'll just hide it under HIPAA. We'll go after you any way they can. Think about that. Think about the Department of Justice coming after you when you expose such a wrongdoing. Well, we'll just hide it under HIPAA. We'll find a violation. We'll make it up. This is insane. They're not just now going to war with the parents themselves. They're going to war with an entire society who I know rejects this. We reject this kind of behavior, this kind of mutilation, this kind of dangerous behavior and crimes against children. And that is a fact.
And remember, every 99% of Democrats support it.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's pure insanity, which is why I always look at the polls and go, the Republicans should be up 15, 20 points.
Yeah.
That understand that the filth and the rot that exist, in our government also exists in a significant portion of voters.
Mm-hmm.
The perverted mindset that exists. Understand that it does exist. And when you think about where they stand on the left today, which is the mainstream of the Democratic Party, they're racists, identity politics. They admit that they're about identity politics, which is judging people by groups and not individuals. They admit their Neanderthal thinking. They admit their incredible criminal perversions with minors and genital mutilation.
Yeah.
They admit their perversion.
Right.
And they admit their perversion by stating that if you don't agree with us, these people will commit suicide as if they have some higher moral ground to say, let this perversion continue.
Yep.
Otherwise, they may commit suicide because they're much more likely to commit suicide instead of getting people the help, the mental health they need.
Mm-hmm.
The insanity on the left is chop it off.
Yeah. And if you don't agree with them, you're the abuser.
Right. Yeah. And your child may need to be taken away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to defund the police. You go to the insanity at the borders where they don't care. Yeah, they don't care. Democrats now are fully for terrorists crossing the border illegally into the United States.
I didn't hear any Democrat on Capitol Hill yesterday talk about that. I may have missed it, about the terrorists that were caught. Did you?
Nope. Here's what we got yesterday on that particular issue. First off, the Bill Maloogian with the new report from the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security. Mm-hmm. Department of Homeland Security has not been effectively. This is not Republicans. This is the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security. DHS has not been effectively screening non-citizens and asylum seekers. The Border Patrol cannot access all federal data to complete thorough screening and vetting. The DHS will remain at risk. And this, again, is from the Inspector General. The DHS will remain at risk of admitting dangerous persons into the country or enabling asylum seekers who may pose significant threats to public safety and national security to continue to reside in the United States. And I want to get to the... Okay, hang on. We'll get to more coming up. Sorry, I'm not even paying it. We got so much going on here.
Yeah, it's a busy show.
Yeah, 866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
The IFTA tax program redistributes tax revenue to states based on your actual miles run. Thus, the truly cheapest fuel can only be found if you subtract federal and state taxes and state surcharges from the pump price to compare. The strategy means that you buy without regard for whether you are paying more at the pump in taxes. IFTA also considers state surcharges, which complicates the fuel buying strategy. Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia have per-gallon surcharges. Connecticut, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, and Oregon have per-mile surcharges. While some owner-operators buy only enough fuel to get through surcharge states, this practice can backfire, depending on the actual cost of the fuel in each state. When comparing fuel prices, always remember, pump pride minus taxes equals the real fuel cost. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll have tons of audio coming up. It's just the general discussion, the general discussion that is specific to everything from yesterday, which is the Democrats don't really have an argument on any issue. Any major issue that the public views as a major concern, they have no argument, and they don't even try arguing. It's simply the other side sucks. Mm-hmm. And we'll have more of this coming up. In fact, the whole terrorists, coming through, suspected terrorists at the border, ISIS-K, responsible, as we all know, ISIS-K for killing 140 people at that Russian theater a couple of months ago into the United States. They don't have an argument for it at all. There is no argument. They don't even try to argue. There's the thing. They're not even trying to argue any of the. They don't have an argument for any of these major issues. Right. It's simply the other side sucks because they're Republicans. Eventually, the public, if the polls are correct, are starting to see that. Yeah. But we'll give you some examples coming up.
Call and join the conversation. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. So, the as Bill Maluzhin put out yesterday, a new concerning report from the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General. The DHS has not been effectively screening non-citizens and asylum seekers. The Border Patrol cannot access all the federal data to complete thorough screening and vetting. The DHS will remain at risk of admitting dangerous persons into the country or enabling asylum seekers who may pose significant threats to public safety and national security to continue to reside in the United States until these challenges are addressed. The DHS conferred with all the 5 recommendations and said that they will fix the problems. Anybody believe them? Nope. Nobody believes them. But that's what we found out. The FBI, as we know, the FBI, Department of Justice, everyone is worried about what's going on at the border, and the administration keeps pathologically lying to the American public. Here is, again, an interview with the acting ICE director, Patrick Leitner, reacting to the arrest of 8 suspected ISIS terrorists who crossed the border yesterday. Here we go.
The reporting is that there were background checks done when they came across the border, that they're from Tajikistan, which is a country listed as a country of particular concern in terms of terrorism with the State Department. Is there an issue with our background check system? Again, how did they slip through the cracks like that?
Well, listen, we have individuals that are coming across and they're done, they're done by checks, and CBP, Customs and Border Protection, is the ones who encounter them at the border. It's not us. But it's not that sometimes there's just no information on individuals. I mean, it's quite common where there's just nothing. You don't have anything. It's no criminal convictions. There's no threat information or whatever on these individuals. Or maybe these individuals are from an area that are particularly of concern, but that pops up later when you get information later on. And as soon as we become aware of any information, like in this case, we became aware, we're working collaboratively with FBI, we went out and got them.
Some of them in the country for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Since January of 23.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As we know. I mean, it's pure insanity. Here we go. Here's a Border Patrol agent on CNN, okay, hiding his identity because he'll get fired if he tells the American public the truth. This is how bad, this is the insanity at the border.
What do you think, this executive order, is that going to do anything?
Well, it only took him, 3 years and 7 months?
In a rare encounter, we meet a Border Patrol agent eager to vent. He asks us to mask his identity, worried he'll be fired for talking so openly.
Well, his job to be a pickpocket, secure the border. We didn't have to babysit.
Does it frustrate you when you hear that, when you hear the narrative, like, why aren't Border Patrol doing anything? And
our hands are tied. If I don't allow them to cross, and they call and complain, now I'm in trouble, and I'm going to lose my job.
Our hands are tied. If I don't allow them to cross, I lose my job.
Yep. No, I mean, that's exactly what the administration has turned the Border Patrol into. It's not BP Border Patrol, it's border processing.
And as he said, he goes, we're babysitters is what we are.
That's it. That's it.
We're not securing our border.
Organize them and show them all, just point them all in the right direction.
And you hear nobody upset. Democrats not upset yesterday because 8 suspected terrorists that were talking about building bombs, ISIS came members, they believe. And then they go, well, yeah, but we eventually found them.
Well over a year later.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, you got to remember with ISIS, after the fall or the killing of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and who was one of the ISIS leaders, that was the advent of the whole lone wolf approach by terrorists. In other words, you do anything you can. You don't have to be part of a group. It doesn't have to be as organized as, say, the 9/11 attack. You can do things in smaller groups or even alone in order to attack the enemy from their position. That's what they believe. So here, well over a year, and they were well on their way, certainly had plenty of time to plan an attack, and who knows what that attack might have looked like. And who knows right now what others are planning to do that are also here, because there is no doubt. There is no doubt. It's a fact that other terrorists have come across the southern border.
And again, another question for the Democrat voter. Why don't you care about this?
Right. We're talking Philly. We're talking New York, L.A.
Yeah. Why don't...
These are all blue cities. Where are the mayors?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Can't believe it, because... you've said quite often the impact of the local media, can be huge. And I haven't seen those local stories. I don't know. I'm guessing Fox LA did some. I mean, that's where that's essentially Bill Mnuchin's base. But you look at the local media coverage in these cities, in these blue cities. I kind of expected the mayors, maybe they said something yesterday and it just didn't rise to the top of the news cycle. But your constituents, the people in those cities, are greatly concerned. When you hear that officials arrested suspected terrorists in your city, it gets everybody's attention. Where was the noise on that yesterday? I don't know.
Yeah,
and the Democrats should be, and this is what we're talking about. The Democrats on Capitol Hill, the mayors of those cities, I don't know how they weren't screaming. It's because they don't care.
Well, the Democrats, as I said, we live in a nation where the Democrats don't care if terrorists cross the border. Any Democrat, tell me where I'm wrong in that statement.
Right.
Because you would see an uproar of the policies that are going on. And this isn't just, this is the FBI director just a week ago talking about this, the Department of Justice talking about it, the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security. Remember all the hype and hoopla of creating the Department of Homeland Security after 9/11?
Yeah.
Think about this. The Department of Homeland Security was created to ensure that terrorists don't come into the country. And the Department of Homeland Security is now the one organization in the world that is making it easy for terrorists to cross into the United States. They're doing the exact opposite of what they were intended to do. And Mayorkas, Secretary Mayorkas, who is the head of the Department of Homeland Security, is a pathological liar telling you that the border is secure.
Yeah.
Well, now he's coming out and just saying, no, now we have an express lane. That's what he said on the Sunday morning news shows.
Yeah.
We've got an express lane now. You don't have to clog up at the border. You don't have to look, we're going to make sure you don't have to deal with the cartels. We're just going to expedite you in basically the express line. You can fly from different cities around the world right here into the United States, and we'll put you into the United States wherever you wish to go.
Southwest Border Airlines. We're open for business.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. And Democrats don't seem to be upset about it at all.
No.
I can only come to one conclusion. If you're a Democrat, you want terrorism in the United States. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me how I'm over the top on, you're just over the top now on that rhetoric. How? How am I over the top in that rhetoric?
Where are they? Where were they yesterday?
Yeah.
Where have they been since this fell out? Look, from the beginning, they were wrong.
Well,
but in the wake of these arrests, you certainly would expect to hear something from them, and it's nothing.
Well, with the impeachment of Mayorkas and everything on the border, Democrats fully support their mission.
Yes.
And their mission is to allow anybody into the United States that they can get away with, that they believe politically they can withstand the blowback on it. And they believe that they can, the public doesn't care. The public only cares when the terrorist act is committed.
Yeah.
The public doesn't give a damn, is what Democrats believe, if the terrorists come into the country and plan. It's only until they blow it up, they blow something up. And then when they blow something up, they'll say, well, we needed better intelligence. Well, what would you have done with that intelligence? Would you have closed the border? No.
Well, it's, and the more I think about it, Mayorkas and his appearance and his boasting about having many different ways to come across the border, to come into the U.S. Sounds like his response to the whole impeachment thing. Oh, yeah, you're going to impeach me? I'll get on the Sunday news shows and promote the fact that we've got multiple ways to bring you in. Come and get it. I'm going to ring the dinner bell. This is what I'm going to do. And that's who he is. He's defiant to no end, just like the commander-in-chief, the current president. He's defiant. He's arrogant about it. They're proudly promoting it.
And after everything we've been through, I only come to one conclusion. Democrats want terrorism inside the United States. Yep. Hey, a lot of them are pro-Hamas.
Yep.
They're happy what happened on October 7th. Now, they claim they're not, but if you're not for Israel eradicating Hamas, then you are pro-terrorist.
Yeah.
Because we judge you by your behavior, not just your words, because we know you'll lie. We have a pathological liar in the White House on everything.
You saw the one radical protester who shouted, whoever was filming or recording at the protest, the person said, well, you support Hamas, and she screams, I am Hamas.
Yeah. Wow. It's just...
I mean, that's where we've gotten. When I said, it was some point after October 7th, I said, I have no idea what the far left, how they would react to a terrorism attack on American soil now. Because I remember clearly, in the days after 9/11, the people in Times Square, they wanted revenge. They wanted the terrorists eliminated. After October 7th, these radicals, they're going to be cheering them on. They're going to be cheering them on. As they kill Americans, they're going to be cheering them on. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong about that. And tell me why I'm wrong about that. Tell me what you have that shows that I'm wrong about that. And I'll show you a whole list of things that shows you I'm right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Coming up, we've got so much to talk about. I mean, there's just so much going on. This was one of my favorite stories. The White House equity requirements is holding back EV charging station construction.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Internal memos from the Department of Transportation obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, as well as interviews with those who are responsible for overseeing the implementation of electric vehicle charging stations, say the delay is in large part to the result of the White House's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. These requirements are screwing up everything, said one senior Department of Transportation staffer who spoke on condition of anonymity. It's all a mess.
Yeah, you can't get anything done, can you?
Yeah, we'll get to the specifics of that, but I mean, it's just you just got to sit back and just laugh. It's all right, we got all this government money that we can spend, but oh wow, the requirements that we put on spending the money make it impossible to spend the money.
Well, we can't get anything done. We stand around talking about the whole DEI thing to make sure, okay, we're all good with DEI. Are we? It's all good. It's all, I don't know, DEI compliant? No, I have a question. Okay, here we go again. And it starts over every single time. You go back to zero. You go back to the drawing board every single time that somebody issues a complaint. How do you not, right? With that kind of attitude. Think about that.
It's like the Wall Street protests. They couldn't even get a meeting going.
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, who's in charge? Well, we can't have somebody in charge. Everybody there needs to be equity where everyone controls the meeting.
Yeah. I can't speak for the group, but you're speaking now. But I'm not supposed to. I mean, they don't know where to begin.
I know.
They've created so many rules, they can't even move.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley.
Hello.
So there it is. In 2021, the Biden administration pledged it would build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations by 2030. 500,000. So far, it's built 7.
Are we sure? Are we sure they have that many?
Last
Do
month,
we need to go inspect?
Last month, it's right. Is that even a lie?
Right, exactly. They're overinflating it.
Last month, Transportation Secretary Buttigieg, who administers the funds for EV charger construction in the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure act, said Americans should not be surprised at the time it takes to stand up a new category of federal investment. It's more than just plunking a small device into the ground, Buttigieg said on Face the Nation. But internal memos from the Department of Transportation obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, as well as interviews with those who are responsible for overseeing the implementation of the electric vehicle charging station project, say the delay is in large part to the result of the White House's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
Oh, that got in the way, did it? I can't imagine how.
These requirements are screwing up everything, said one senior Department of Transportation staffer who spoke on condition of anonymity. It's all a mess. President Joe Biden has reportedly expressed frustration with the pace at which the much-touted infrastructure projects are getting built. A close ally of the White House told CNN last December that Biden wants his stuff now. And the White House spokesperson added that the president consistently pushes his team to ensure that we're moving as quickly as possible, but he may only have himself to blame. Shortly after taking office, the president signed an executive order mandating that the beneficiaries of 40% of all federal climate and environmental programs should come from underserved communities. The order also established the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council, which monitors agencies such as the Department of Transportation to ensure the voices, perspectives, and lived realities of communities with environmental justice concerns are heard in the White House and reflected in federal policies, investments, and decisions. In order to qualify for a grant, applicants must demonstrate how meaningful public involvement, inclusive of disadvantaged communities, will occur throughout a project's life cycle. What public involvement means is unclear. But the Department of Transportation notes it should involve intentional outreach to underserved communities. That outreach, the Department of Transportation states, can take the form of games and contests, visual preference surveys, neighborhood block parties, so long as the grant recipient provides multilingual staff or interpreters to interact with community members who use languages other than English.
Well,
this all just slows down construction, said Jim Miggs, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute who focuses on federal regulation. These public involvement requirements are impossible to quantify or even open builders up to lawsuits by members of the community where an electric vehicle charging station is set to be constructed. They don't want to get involved in it. If they get involved in it,
they got to be all DEI.
The DEI comes in, and the DEI can be whatever they want because there aren't specifics as to what actually DEI is.
No, you have to. It's an ever evolving, and I mean from one moment to the next set of rules. It really is.
How these equity requirements are relative to the construction of a single electric vehicle charging station,
just one,
is unclear.
They can't get. How did they get 7 done? I'm calling bogus. There aren't 7 completed. You didn't get one of them done.
But all applicants for federal funding must be, in many cases, they must submit reports that can total hundreds of pages of how they will pursue equity every step along the way.
Oh, my gosh. Why would you even bid on it?
This leads to delays and increased costs throughout the construction process. One senior Department of Transportation official told the Free Beacon, highly qualified applications, internal memo state, must promote local inclusive economic development and entrepreneurship, such as the use of minority-owned businesses. That can take the form of funding, support services to help train, place, and retain people in good-paying jobs, or registered apprentices with a focus on women, people of color, and others that are unrepresented in infrastructure jobs. A firm's workplace culture should promote the entry and retention of underrepresented populations.
Well,
these...
by the way, women, how do they define a woman?
No, that's true. That's another thing right there. You can't. These onerous diversity, equity, and inclusion requirements handcuff professionals from making proper evaluations and prevent the government public from funding the most deserving projects, instead funneling money towards less qualified applicants, the senior Department of Transportation official said. Those regulations are visible throughout more than the 500 federal initiatives across 19 agencies, according to the White House Chief Environmental Justice Officer, who spoke during a White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council meeting on Wednesday. The Free Beacon accessed that meeting, which took place over Zoom and included more than 15 speakers from federal various agencies. So here's the problem with liberalism. They come in to spend all the money. They put so many regulations in, which isn't a normal bidding process, that it delays, it skyrockets the cost of construction and delays the cost of construction because companies don't know what to do and don't know whether they might be sued because nobody can figure out what the regulation even means. Liberalism, perfect. We've got the money to spend, but we'll regulate it. Liberalism is so bad now in the nation that they're able to still extract money from the taxpayer, put us in tremendous debt, but they can't even spend the money because of the regulations that they put in to spend the money.
Exactly. Now think about this. Equity. Well, the bidding process for contractors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the construction of all of it. Okay. Minority-owned businesses. Well, but one minority group is winning more of the bids and getting more jobs as a result of that.
Equity.
Then another. Where's the equity?
Yep.
Within the groups that you have outlined, you're not going to have equity.
Right. Where's the inclusion?
Where is the inclusion? And inclusion means all.
And diversity.
Which means you have to have at least one of every protected, what they would call protected group, or group that is outlined and defined as, and again, define a woman as a minority.
Well, no, you're right, because who's going to do this project? Well, we can't give it this underrepresented group, for example, would just say Hispanics. They've gotten 20% of the jobs. What about where is the transgender companies here?
Right.
Where is the proper representation? And what about women? Yeah, but what defines a woman?
Right.
Okay, we're going to have to, before we award these contracts, we're going to have to do a detailed study over the next couple of years.
No, it's going to take years just to find,
to define what a woman is.
Yeah, you're going to have to, just defining the language of their own rule book, word by word, will take you forever. That's it.
They said
that's
it there,
what,
right.
That's what that means.
They need time to define what the regulations even mean.
Every word has to be defined. Define a woman. Go ahead.
Right. Women-owned businesses are underrepresented. Well, what's a woman?
Right. Now, if a transgender woman wins the bid and a biological woman who's the owner of another business bidding for the same job loses the bid, how is that equity?
Heads explode.
Now, get down to the one job. All of the moving parts, all the tasks needed for just building the one. This is why I really question that they got any actually built. They didn't get 7 built. You can't convince me of that. They didn't get 1 built. They probably took some that were already being built and just said, okay, that's part of it, too.
I forgot. I think it might have been Stossel was talking about this and talked about the ones that they saw built in one city were all for government workers.
Yeah, okay.
And they were sitting unused because the cars were sitting unused.
So they basically, exactly as I suspected, they basically, all right, that was already, going to happen anyway. It was already in motion. We'll just fold that in and call it progress as a result of this. And of course it isn't. Because if you get down, let's just say the one project, the one charging station, building the one charging station, every task, which starts with the leveling of the property, the raising everything down flat and making sure, and then you're going to, I don't know, you got to do, well, the EPA's got to come in, by the way. I get Granholm on the phone because there is, now we got to talk about the, any concern about the soil. You got to test all the soil. Did they do the proper study on any species of animal living in that zone, and if they would be disturbed, if their natural habitat would be disturbed?
Must all the electricity come from solar and wind?
Right. Now you're going to talk about the demolition, all of that. That takes one crew, and then the construction crew. And, well, wait a minute. We need diversity, equity, inclusion just on the one job. Everyone has to be represented on every job. Otherwise, it's not equity. Tell me where I'm wrong. It's not inclusion. Yeah.
That's where we stand now.
So they're taking your taxpayer money, and they can't even spend it. Their own rule book can't be defined. Why? Because anybody can say they belong to any of those groups. That's supposed to be included, supposed to be part of the equity, supposed to help build the diversity. Just by saying so. And they made up the rules, and the rules change when someone raises their hand. It's like you said, Occupy Wall Street. Well, we've decided no one is going to speak for the group. Yeah, but you're speaking right now. Yeah, but I'm not supposed to. I don't speak for the group. Then why are you talking? This is what we believe. You're speaking for the group again. And they, at every turn, they run into their own walls that they build over this stupidity.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, the arguments that Republicans and Democrats are making over the criminal referral for contempt of Congress to Merick Garland, the Attorney General, all coming up. Since we were covering the Vegas alien story.
Yeah, okay.
Hidden UFO civilization could be on Earth. Harvard researchers say they live.
And they own Facebook.
That startling claim was made in a new paper by researchers at Harvard and Montana Technological University. They speculate that unidentified UAPs, UFOs, another term for UFOs, could be living underground on the moon or even walking among human beings. Get me my sunglasses.
Or running Facebook.
Yes.
Wanting to turn us all into cartoons.
The researchers acknowledged in the paper their hypothesis may be regarded in a skeptical way by the general scientific community.
Maybe.
But they still deserve consideration in the spirit of openness and humility.
In the spirit of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah, okay.
Here are their theories.
Why not?
Here are their theories proposed in the paper. A remnant form of ancient civilization remains on Earth.
Uh-huh.
An intelligent species evolved separately from humans and now stays hidden.
Yeah.
Crypto-terrestrials traveled from another time period or planet. And the unidentified creatures are of supernatural origin, likened to earthbound angels. The paper also suggests the idea of crypto-terrestrials living in or under
Walmart,
under sighting hotspots such as lakes
or Walmart
and volcanoes,
but not Walmart.
Not Walmart. No. That was the North Koreans.
Okay, sorry.
Under Walmart.
Okay. So Kim Jong-un's not an extraterrestrial being?
Apparently not.
Okay. That haircut is just supposed to be Earth-like?
By the way, the researchers acknowledge the extraordinary nature of their claims, saying, in part, we entertain them here because some aspects of UFOs are strange enough that they seem to call for unconventional explanations. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, but no one can explain them. All right. I mean, we have evidence. Just look at the horribly blurry and shaky video.
Well, when I think of liberalism today and how illogical it is, and how when you talk about critical thinking human beings, maybe they're right. Maybe these aliens do exist and they don't think like us.
Well, I'll tell you right now, it is like being on another planet sometimes. It's like they're not even the same creature. So they could be onto something. Could be onto something.
I am here to chew bubble gum and kick butt. And I'm all out of bubble gum.
Yeah. Totally improv line.
Yeah, that was well. Well, it was an improv line from what he wrote for wrestling.
Yeah, he brought it from wrestling.
Piper. Right,
it wasn't in the script
because
the movie.
When I saw the biography, he used to write constantly. He was writing lines all the time. It was like he was always thinking of those Roddy Piper. We're talking about the late great wrestler who was in the movie They Live. If you've never seen the movie They Live, John Carpenter. It was a John Carpenter movie.
Yeah,
and to me, it's still a B kind of movie, but it's the best kind. It's the best kind of B movie.
Well, that's it. And it's kind of the fact that it's a B movie and looks cheesy in a lot of places during the movie is actually, to me, makes it even better. It's kind of, Carpenter kind of had that, as a movie maker. That's kind of a, one of his traits, really. I mean, he did some great movies along the way, but that's a great movie. They Live.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right. As we know, we had Attorney General Merick Garland hold in charge with contempt of Congress and the vote in Congress yesterday, a criminal referral to the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
Because, again, when it came to the subpoena to release the audio tapes, I won't say tapes, the audio of the Special Counsel Hur interview with the president. We already got the transcript, but they refused to release it. Again, all bogus. This is, if you don't believe that the Department of Justice has been weaponized, that's the perfect argument right there.
Yeah.
And let's hear the arguments being made. All right, we first go to Jim Jordan yesterday when it kicked off an exciting day of interesting arguments.
Last September, the Speaker of the House announced that the House of Representatives would be entering an impeachment inquiry phase of our oversight work. On December 13th, the full House of Representatives voted to do just that, to formalize that. This is a power that is exclusively resides in the House of Representatives, and one of the most important powers that we have as an institution and as a body. Robert Hur, on page 1 of his special counsel report, said Joe Biden knowingly kept classified information, Joe Biden knowingly disclosed classified information, and he disclosed that information to someone who wasn't allowed to get it. On page 231, he told us why Joe Biden did those things. He said Joe Biden had strong motivations for ignoring classified procedures because he was writing a book for which he got paid $8 million. So we have motive, an $8 million motive. We have the elements of the crime, knowingly keeping, knowingly disclosing, giving that information to someone who wasn't allowed to get it. We have all that, and yet the special counsel said he would not recommend charges for President Biden. We think we're entitled to, we know we're entitled to all the evidence, and that includes the best evidence, which is this audio tape. That's why we sent the subpoena. The Attorney General has been clear he's not going to give that information to us. So that's why we have the contempt resolution. We assume this is going to wind up in court, but we think our case is strong and we think that we will prevail. But step one is to pass the resolution holding the Attorney General in contempt for not giving the House of Representatives, the body who's in an impeachment inquiry phase of our oversight responsibilities, not giving us the best evidence. Finally, I would just say this. We think the privilege has already been waived. We think when they gave us the transcript, they've waived the privilege. And understand that there have already been times where the transcript that we've received from the White House doesn't match up with what was actually said by the President of the United States. And so, again, for all those reasons, we think we need this information, and that's why the resolution will be on the floor today. And I'll let the next gentleman talk about the vote on that. And that's
there you go.
Yep.
Where's Jim Jordan wrong?
Across the board, spot on. And they really can't deny this now. I mean, they're trying. First they go with executive privilege. And then they go with AI. Someone could manipulate the recording. Well, now we can add to it the fact that the liberal media, they want it too. And so if the concern is that people on the right would manipulate the recording, well, those very left news organizations won't have any of that. There's your check and balance in that equation.
In fact, since you mentioned that, here is some of that being debated in the Oversight Committee. Here we go.
And I agree with everything she said. And another point that my colleagues to my left forgot to mention when they said that it's the House Republicans that want these audio tapes. The Associated Press, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, Reuters, Bloomberg, and the Washington Post, as well as other mainstream media outlets, have all sued to get the recordings as well. So the American people want to see those audio recordings in addition to the investigators in the House of Representatives. So I think that's a very important point.
Yeah, that is an important point. They all wish to see it. And then you got into more. This is Harriet Hegman from Wyoming, and this is a little back and forth, going with Nadler yesterday. Here we go.
As a long-practicing attorney, they are not the same thing. The audio is the best evidence of what he said, how he said it, the time that it took for him to say it, and in what ways they may have altered that transcript. The moment that they released the transcript and said, this is the interview, they waived their ability to claim any kind of a privilege.
The actual audio of the interview available. Let the American people be the deciders here. Why hide that from them? People are sensitive because they were told that, say, a certain laptop was Russian disinformation, and 51 members of the intelligence community signed a letter to that effect, and then it turns out, well, maybe it was not.
Because the chairman of the Judiciary Committee has already been caught altering...
May I respond?
No, not until I finish. Has been caught altering verbal, electronic transcripts in the case of Nina Jankowicz. And we have every reason to believe, or let me retract that. Yeah. We have no reason to believe that he wouldn't do so again.
Yeah. If I may respond.
Please, I wish you would.
That is absolutely untrue. Neither Jim Jordan nor anybody on the Judiciary Committee made any changes to Nina Jankowicz's interview transcript. That's absolutely a false statement. There's one other point that I think needs to be clarified, which is that Special Counsel Robert Hur stated on page 1 of his report, our investigation uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a vice president.
Okay, the music's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
And it's just that was the I found that on X, so decided to play it. But I want to at least get that part in it. And then let's go to here. We will go to, okay, not that one, not that one. Well, I mean, this of course, was put out by the Republicans yesterday. Democrats talking about the fact of when there's a subpoena, if you don't follow it, you're breaking the law. If there's a subpoena from Congress. Just a little part of this here. Here we go.
Do you think people who refuse to comply with congressional subpoenas should be prosecuted by the Justice Department and at the end of the day go to jail?
Yes.
If you act deliberately with sneering, cavalier contempt for the American people and their representatives, we will hold you in contempt. In America, when you are subpoenaed to testify in court or in Congress, you show up.
Okay, that goes on for like 3 minutes of just the Democrats one after another saying that you have to do that, which again is tough to stick with that.
Right.
Here is Jake Tapper with Dan Goldman. Okay, this is yesterday. Here we go.
It's New York Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman. Congressman, what's your reaction to the vote, and why should the Biden administration hide these tapes from the public?
By the way, I want to note, he didn't say Republicans are saying you're hiding it. He's making it a statement of fact, Jake Tapper. Why are you hiding this?
Right.
Why do you wish to hide it? Which I thought was great. Here we go.
Well, first of all, Jake, it's a very disappointing day, and it's another effort by the Republican Party to dig a deeper hole for this institution. Contempt of Congress is a very serious charge, and as we know from the Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon cases, those are situations where witnesses are subpoenaed and absolutely blow off various committees, provide no documents, no information, which is exactly what the Trump administration did, as you will recall, back in 2019. And the State Department had gathered a boatload of documents to turn over to the impeachment inquiry related to Ukraine. Donald Trump ordered them not to turn them over. And so what we are now entering into is a situation here where the Republicans obtained the substance of the interview that they requested. That is more than enough for them to do any oversight that they deem necessary. There is no legitimate legislative purpose for them to obtain the audio recording because they're not prosecuting him. They're not trying to determine whether to prosecute him. And there is no legislation they can identify. There's no oversight they can identify that points to why they need the audio recording. And what they really want to do is release it to help Donald Trump misconstrue these recordings, use them during the campaign, and that is not a legitimate purpose. And so this is a situation where the Department of Justice went beyond really the call of duty in providing the substance of all of the requests that the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee made of Merick Garland, but that's not enough for them. They can't take yes for an answer.
The last three of the last five attorneys general have been found in contempt of Congress. Eric Holder didn't turn over information relating to the Fast and Furious mishap, that sting operation. Attorney General Bill Barr was held in contempt of Congress by a Democratic Congress for not turning over information, the unredacted Mueller report, and now Attorney General Merick Garland for not turning over the audio. A citizen who doesn't have a dog in the fight might say, it seems to me as though the legislative branch is trying to do oversight of the executive branch, and the executive branch keeps giving whoever's in charge of Congress, the executive branch consistently gives the finger to the House. I assume you don't see it that way, but there is a consistency in these three contempt of Congress votes.
Well, there's only a consistency in the fact that three attorney generals have now been held in contempt by Congress, but the situations and the circumstances are very different. There was no basis for Bill Barr to withhold the unredacted report from Congress. He could identify none if it were an issue of classified or secret information.
But there's really no basis for the Justice Department to not give the audio recordings to Congress either.
Well, first of all, there is, and I do believe The basis is that it would have a chilling impact on any future cooperation of witnesses who would know they would be recorded and would know that it potentially could be disclosed. And
that's the argument that he sticks with right there, plus the fact that he brings up that it could be edited. Well, then you don't release anything.
Right.
Because anything AI can edit. You can edit a transcript.
Well, no more recording devices in any room where the president appears.
Right. Where he doesn't have an argument, as we've talked about before. There is no executive privilege argument here. Once you release a transcript, you gave up on that, and then to say that we're not going to do it because we have executive privilege on the recording is ridiculous. Especially that, and this should be brought up more, I think, by Republicans, even though they have brought it up. But the fact is, Hur said he broke the law.
Mm-hmm.
Hur laid out the president broke the law.
Right.
But we're not going to prosecute him because he doesn't have the mental ability to be prosecuted. That's simple.
Right.
The White House says that's completely wrong, that the transcript and the audio doesn't show that. End of story.
Right.
That's why the Republicans should emphasize that first. Whose line? The White House, or is it or is her line?
Well,
because what the White House is saying is the president does have the ability to stand trial. So the White House's argument is, if you follow it,
he should be on trial.
That Hur should prosecute the president.
Right. That he broke the law.
And so you want to hear the audio tape to see if Hur actually made the right call or didn't make the right call. And again, as to sit there and say that, well, it could be manipulated in some way, well, then that's the excuse not to be transparent at all from government.
Right.
Which is just ridiculous.
It is.
He doesn't have a point.
Right.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, and when Goldman said that, and this argument's been used before, that the audio shouldn't be released because it could further hinder investigations where witnesses did not want to talk to the Department of Justice because the audio might come out. Well, you already have the text out. Well, you think a defendant's going to go, well, as long as you just put the text out of what I say and not the audio. So that argument falls apart. Plus, you made the greatest point here right when we went into the break. One of the things that they feared, Republicans may alter the tape or the audio. Well, how would Republicans alter it? Would they alter it to make him seem coherent?
So that way he would be competent for trial?
Right, so he'd be competent for trial, or would they alter it to make him sound like he has more cognitive problems than he already has?
Right.
I'd ask that question to Goldman.
Yeah, exactly.
Which way would they go on this?
Yeah, what's your fear?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. The congressional baseball game took place last night. And before we tell you what the score was, this is, I wish people could see the video. When I first saw this, I go, what the hell is this? But he's talking about Republicans because it looks like it's a real baseball game.
Yeah.
You know, because they're all dressed in baseball uniforms.
Right.
And I'm like, well, who's the pitcher? The pitcher, Representative Greg Stubbe of Florida, pitching against Dan Goldman. And when he pitches, I'm like, okay, it's not. When I first saw it, I went, was that a slider? Was he, you know, when a change up where they, you know, throw it slow, you know, but it looked like a decent pitch. The ball had movement on it, and he strikes Dan Goldman, who we were just playing, who's just the worst for the Democrats. He strikes him out.
Well, I mean, as usual with Dan Goldman, it is a swing and a miss.
Yeah, here it is. Let's try it again. All right, here we go.
Down 1 ball and 2 strikes here on Dan Goldman from New York. And a swing and a miss that will end the inning. The Democrats threaten but do not score. 7-5. The Republicans after 3 here at Nationals Park.
And Representative Stubbe has a MAGA hat on. So a guy with the MAGA hat struck out Dan Goldman. But that's not even the best. Is, you know, you look at this upcoming election, you say, you know, how much could Republicans win by, because Democrats are just so bad right now on not being able to argue any of the major issues that Americans are concerned about. They can't. They fail miserably.
Yeah.
And Goldman's one of the leaders of that. The Republicans won. I had to go back and check it a few times. 31-11. It's a baseball game.
Wow. 31-11.
Yes. Apparently, the Republicans scored more than the Mavericks did last night. I'm kidding.
You're only slightly wrong about that.
And then just going through different audio cuts. I could just sit here all day and just play audio cuts.
Yeah.
We could just play audio cuts and comment on them.
Yep.
But this is MSNBC Morning Joe.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
And this is where they're saying it's Trump who is not well and not fit to speak on stage, and Biden is just wonderful. And all this stuff going on about Biden is complete and total disinformation.
Yeah, right.
This is disinformation. Biden is fine. He'll never do an interview or take questions. He won't do a press conference. You hear he's not going to attend the dinner, the G7 dinner.
Right.
Not attending it.
Well,
and Karine Jean-Pierre was asked a question, why not? Well, because it's going to be it's busy for everybody. They're all going to make the dinner. Why can't he make? Because he's not up to it. They don't want him out in public.
No, they don't.
We all know it. But this is the delusion of the cutest couple. Mika and Joe. Yes, dear, whatever your opinion is. Yes, I know I used to fake that I was a conservative Republican, but whatever you say, dear. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. I don't have a mind of my own, dear. Yes, dear. Yes, dear.
According to my wife, I am outraged.
Yes. Here it is, okay?
All right.
Again, it's just like the way we started this show. Trump is literally crazy on stage, and I say it not in a good way. Not well, not fit, not mentally capable of holding together a sentence when his prompter goes down. And yet Biden is constantly covered for being old, but yet travels onto the world stage doing speeches, dinners, important ceremonies, recognizing people who suffered and survived D-Day, spending time with them, connecting with them. You see it all on video, except if you go to these places or you talk to those Republicans, you see the one time where he couldn't find his chair.
Well, but even that was a lie. It's disinformation. It's doctrine.
This is where we are right now.
It's lies versus the truth. It really is. And let Republicans keep lying about Joe Biden. It's only going to help him in the end. It's only going to lower expectations so much that he's going to come out and do what he does at every State of the Union address. He's going to outperform because of all the lies that are told about him.
He's going to outperform? Wow. They don't want to put him out there because he's too good. I made a joke earlier.
It's
that the White House, on the whole special prosecutor thing, and the Special Prosecutor Hur has said, that he doesn't believe he's fit for trial. And the White House is saying, no. He's incredibly fit. It's like, whoa, what are you trying to say? He should be on trial?
Yeah, from what I know, that is a Department of Justice under the Biden administration analysis of the president.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the president, the president as well.
Mm-hmm.
The president, he's doing good.
She knows so long as she was 9.
Exactly. He's fine. Everything's fine.
God, just great. I mean,
it's fine.
The delusion that that's gaslighting, because they're looking at you as if, what are you, an idiot?
Right.
Can't you see that he is it's Trump that can't speak and can't do things, and Biden is completely well. He's just like the cabinet said last week. They can't keep up with him. Everybody knows that's a line of horse manure. Why do you think 54% of Democrats just last week or this week believe he's not capable of running?
Right.
Because they're paying attention to the Republican lies?
Right.
Is that what Democrats are thinking?
Basically, the response from the White House when asked, about the G7 dinner, he's too busy being mentally competent.
That's exactly right.
They're just going out of they're trying, again, everybody sees it for what it is. And they have no.
I like that.
It's just not. It's not going to fly with anybody who's paying attention. Wow. They know they can't put him on the world stage.
Yeah, that's why. But you're right though. That was the best. What you just said there. That that's what Karine Jean-Pierre said yesterday.
Basically,
that. Look,
he's too busy being mentally competent.
He's too busy being mentally competent, and so he can't make it to the dinner.
No one else at the G7 would be able to keep up with him, and he doesn't want to show them up. He would just make them look bad on the world stage, and sorry, he's not going to do that. Yeah, that's garbage. He can't be on the world stage. And as president, you're always on the world stage, but at a G7 dinner, the cameras are rolling. And the last week or so hasn't been great for him in that respect. I mean, I don't know how many audio cuts and videos that you have to see from just the last week to tell you that story. It's pretty clear. In the one, in that Juneteenth celebration video, he's not moving his arms. He seems to be frozen. The whole D-Day thing, still don't know what's going on there. Then he's led away by his wife. His wife is doing the really horrible attempt to cover her mouth while she's saying something to him on stage, standing next to Macron, and she's trying to tell him something because apparently he's out of it and doesn't realize where he is. And that would be repeated at the G7 dinner, and they know that.
Yeah, they don't want him.
So tell me a debate. Tell me a debate's going to happen. Tell me a debate is going to happen.
Oh, right now it is.
They're saying it is.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it.
Again, I mean, he did. I mean, you can see there's a cognitive decline since 2020.
Oh, it's clear.
A massive cognitive decline.
Yeah.
But we saw him at the State of the Union address, but he didn't get the benefit. I mean, when he got angry, it was like, whoa. I think that was the thing where he was screaming at people.
It's
like,
the
okay,
problem,
he can read, but as we know, he has the hardest time ad-libbing.
Well, see, and here's the thing, too. What are you fearing at a G7 dinner? He can't get through the normal smile and wave moments. He can't do it. And that's
right.
what you would normally see at a G7
it's
dinner.
when-
It's just photo op. It's just photo op. You know, here he is with so-and-so from so-and-so, and it's photo op after photo op, and he can't do it.
Well, also, you're talking with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's
And
going
it's-
to,
does
and
he-
he's
right.
going to have to, yeah. And at
he's-
G7, that's the first thing that hit me is that they don't want him talking to any other global leader. They don't. Look at the look on Macron's face the other day at the D-Day thing. I mean, he looked lost. Think about that. The right in that part of the world seems to be right now taking over. And so Macron is not in favor with his own people, and he's having to babysit Biden on a stage. You don't want Biden talking to any other global leader. Any of our allies would be greatly concerned if they see this, and there's no way that Macron and others, first of all, they already know it, but you're going to confirm it over and over again. And so what you're saying is he can't do that, and he can't do the simple smile and wave photo op. He can't. If he can't do those things anymore, tell me what he's capable of doing.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log general form and manner and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Looking at some of the latest polls here. Okay, the one that we had yesterday in Pennsylvania, the Marist poll. Trump 47, Biden 45, Kennedy 3. Which we believe would be much closer. We don't remember when Kennedy was polling at like 17, 18, and we said, well, that's not going to last.
Yeah, that's not going to last.
You have here, let me see, in Arizona, because the head-to-head means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why the pollsters continue to do that. Do you?
No.
Does it make any sense to
No,
you?
no, you have to include the entire pool because that is going to be a big part of it.
The only thing is, if it was a state where Kennedy, because is Kennedy in all 50 states? I don't know how many states he's in right now at the moment.
Good question.
But head-to-head, Trump is up by 6. If you include Kennedy, Stein, and West, Trump is up by 8 in Arizona, which is huge.
Yeah.
And that's when, to be up 8 in Arizona. Now, here's what I disagree with. Trump versus Biden in Florida, Trump plus 6, 49-43. I believe Trump's up more in Florida than by 6 points.
All right. Kennedy is saying he will be on all the ballots in all 50 states. So we'll see.
The interesting thing is how Trump in the polls is outperforming the Senate candidates. You know, and you look in Pennsylvania, for example, by 8 points.
Yeah.
In Florida by 8 points.
Yeah.
Trump is outperforming in the polls. I mean, that's just like, wow.
Yeah,
it's just
right. Well, and it makes you wonder. I mean, at the end of it, the down ballot effect has to be in play to a certain degree. So are the polls in those other races just off a little bit? I think he could well outperform people in the House and in the Senate. But, you know, you look at those key Senate races here, and that's the difference. Well, first of all, they need to gain seats in the House. So, but beyond that, they also need to win the Senate if they're going to get anything done. And the best hope is that they could get 52, 53 seats, maybe 54.
I mean, in Arizona, again, it's tough to figure out what's going on in a state when you're not there and you're not watching the media, you're not listening to the radio, you're not getting bombarded by the ads that are in a particular state or what the news is actually covering, the local news. That's the tough thing of analyzing. It's easier to analyze a national election than it is a state election. For us outside, you know, in Texas, it would be easier for us to do that.
Right.
But in Arizona, for example, and it's the Fabrizio polling, Trump is outperforming Lake by 11 points. I mean, did you ever think? Did you ever think we'd be sitting here in 2024 saying, well, Trump's running again after he has been convicted of 34 felonies, and he would be outperforming the Republican Senate candidates when all the major issues the people lean Republican on, and Trump is outperforming
because you
the Senate candidates.
Yeah, you had a significant portion of the Republican Party early on. Remember when he announced and that he was running, and early on, a significant portion of the Republican Party we're not so sure. We're not so sure. And that's when DeSantis was kind of picking up some steam leading up to the primary and the whole thing. But just the juxtaposition of where we were then and where we are now, and it is drastically different. And now he's outperforming a number of people in Senate races. That's wild. There are going to be some issues, and like you said, I mean, state by state, kind of hard to follow along day by day. Did Carrie Lake get hit because of her change on abortion in that state or anything else? I mean, what's going on that really has voters going for Gallego at this point?
Get our Red Eye Radio app in your app store. Then listen at your convenience. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Jerry McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Oh, and the story yesterday, Karine Jean-Pierre wouldn't really answer the question, so they're not ruling out of commuting, the president commuting the sentence of Hunter.
Right. Yeah, that question kind of came up the day of the verdict. It was like, okay, they talked about the pardon. What about commuting? So I guess we'll see.
That'd be interesting. When would he make that? When is he supposed to be? When is there supposed to be a sentencing hearing for Hunter Biden? I don't even know.
I don't know. Is it August?
Don't know. I didn't see it.
Yeah. I don't remember. I don't remember if anybody said, actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, too.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just see here. Next faces sentencing in the case, CNN. Let me see. While the 3 felonies Biden was convicted of carry a maximum sentence of more than 24 years behind bars, the sentencing guidelines is between 15 and 21 months in prison. The actual sentence, however, is up to the judge. I don't see a date here. Okay, the federal judge said the exact date for determining the sentence would be decided later, but noted that in Delaware, pre-sentencing reports usually take 4 months, which would place the sentencing in October, just before the November general election.
Well, and would there be consideration by the judge in that?
To make it afterwards?
Yeah, say, no, we're going to postpone this until after the election.
Mm-hmm. Well, then if Biden loses, either way, it wouldn't matter.
Because he'll still have time.
Yeah, well, no, if he loses, he'll still have time. If he wins, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If Biden won, he would care less. Once he wins, that's it. He's never has to face the voters again.
Right.
And they said this was Joe Biden, before the verdict, said he would rule out a pardon for his son, but he was not asked about commuting a sentence, which he has the power to do in federal cases.
Right.
The White House press secretary on Wednesday said she has not discussed the matter with the president, even though she had said over a year ago when asked this, she said no, there would be no pardon or no commuting the sentence. So apparently there's been a change in what she said a year ago. I've not spoken to the president about this, and what I'm saying is he was asked about a pardon. He was asked about the trial specifically, and he answered very clearly, very forthright. A conviction in Delaware could spur the two sides to come to a plea agreement in Biden's tax case, which was also brought up by Special Counsel David Weiss.
Okay.
That trial is scheduled for September in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll see if he commutes. We'll see what the sentence is first, I guess. I got to find that out. I only really saw one or two analysts that said, one analyst thought he'll for sure see jail time at least 6 months to a year. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not confident that that would happen to Hunter Biden. Probation, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it comes down. I suspect, though, if they get to October, the judge is probably going to say, yeah, let's wait until after the election to do the sentencing.
Or you sentence him and then you just, you need to report in December, which gives the president plenty of time after the election to commute the sentence.
But if you're a judge worried about influencing the election one way or the other on the sentence, I don't know if it makes a difference on the sentence, actually. You know, I don't know how much it moves the needle by that point.
No, I don't. I look at what's going on, and whatever happens to Hunter Biden, I don't believe is going to affect the election in any way. We've seen that what happens to Trump hasn't affected the election in any way. In fact, you could look at it a couple of weeks later and say Trump has actually moved a point or two ahead of where he was before the conviction. So they may not take that into consideration at all. I think there's more of a consideration of the Trump sentencing on July 11th. Where the Democrats are going, oh, my God. What do we do here? What do we do? What do we do?
Because we're talking about a week before the GOP convention. There's no doubt that Mershon scheduled all of it that way for a reason. So,
what I've always look, we know this is going to be overturned. I don't believe it's going to be overturned. I believe it's a great chance it will not be overturned in New York court because I'm sorry, but they're rogue judges there, It's
Yeah.
become a banana state.
Yeah.
And I think after you've seen what the Attorney General did with the civil suit against him and now this, it's a banana state.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do any business there at all. As I told you, I know somebody who's in the banking business who said, well, they stopped doing it even before all of this happened because of the regulations and the litigious rules and regulations that they stopped doing business with New York banks.
Well,
they don't want.
It's too much of a risk.
Well, it's sort of like when we talked about the infrastructure bill on building the. We talked about it maybe about an hour and a half ago about the EV charging stations that they can't get them built, and inside of the Department of Transportation, they're saying it's all DEI. They can't get anything done. Companies don't want to deal with it. They don't know. They don't know what the regulations even mean, and if they're found to not be, following the regulations, the DEI regulations, which are very gray areas, you don't know. They're afraid of getting lawsuits. So they got all this money to spend, and they're not building any charging stations because of the DEI requirements and all the regulations and all the unknowns that go along with the insanity of DEI.
Yeah.
So you can say this for everything.
I mean, yeah, that's
everything is messed up.
Right. And they've got it to where they can't move themselves within their own agenda.
Yeah, they don't even know. The judge doesn't know. He's going, I have no idea. If I sentence him to this could work in his favor. By sentence, you imagine we sentence you, Donald Trump, to 15 years to life.
Yeah.
15 years to prison. You must report next week.
Right. I mean,
but here would be my question. If that happens, you immediately file with the appellate court for a decision before you go to prison that you look for an expedited decision from the appellate court to say, until this finishes the appeals process, I stay free. I don't know what they would say. If they say, no, you go to jail, can he go to the Supreme Court? This is the question I don't know because we've never been in this situation before. Can he go at that point and say that his constitutional rights are being violated because this is absolutely a rogue judge and a rogue prosecutor and a rogue appellate court? Can you make that case to federal courts? I think you can. I don't know if they will accept it, because if he goes to prison, at that point, because there was no recourse for the president, we become a banana republic.
Yeah.
Because you're saying, well, there's still a chance. I mean, there's still the election, and the federal courts will still get involved. But if the delay because of the process, which gives the state courts who could hold this up indefinitely and put him in jail to deny somebody their constitutional rights, and a former president, especially when the Supreme Court is looking at immunity, which could come down any day now.
Right. Yeah.
Immunity for a president, that it doesn't matter whether you haven't gone through the entire justice process or the election, where the people of the United States would then reject it and say, no, you become president or whatever. That, because I've stated this, New York is clearly a banana republic with their legal system now. The United States isn't, because you haven't gone through the federal courts and you haven't got to the election where the people of the United States may speak in this particular case.
Right.
But if neither matters because he's in jail already.
Yeah.
If you can't get to the federal process until somebody is actually incarcerated, and then the state of New York wins because they've been able to, pervert the process of they're involved in election interference of a presidential election, and there's not anything that you can do about it. And that's why I say we're in untested territory. I don't know if he filed with the Supreme Court what would happen.
Well, and there's the problem, if it does get to that, if they're able to effectively sentence him, put him behind bars, and through the appeals process, he has no recourse until after the election,
the damage is done.
Their goal is accomplished.
Right. And if you've been damaged, and if an election has been damaged because of something that is clear to be overturned, will a federal court take it at that point? You've been damaged. It's about your civil rights. It's about a rogue judge and a rogue prosecutor. And it's not hard for judges to figure out what this is against him.
Right.
This isn't the Hunter Biden case where the evidence was absolutely slam dunk.
Right.
There is no there. We don't know the evidence. The evidence that was presented in the court showed that Donald Trump did something that was legal.
Yeah. Right.
But the instructions were it was illegal.
Well,
it wasn't illegal.
As Jonathan Turley lined out multiple times, the reversible errors. And I think Dershowitz, same thing. You look at these things that during the entire process were wrong, where the appeals process should be a walk. The problem is the timing. And I think, of course, that's part of it. That's why the Democrats brought it when they brought it. This is why this is happening when it's happening.
Because if I'm a federal judge, I'm looking at this and saying, well, wait a minute. What we're saying is that a federal election can be interfered with by a state, and because the legal process takes so long, to go through it, and, hey, the appellate court could say, okay, we're going to take a look at this and not come down to a decision, in a year or 6 months. Well, the damage has been done. A federal election has been interfered with by a state with clearly a rogue prosecution of no crime being identified that got you to totally dubious way that they went after it to begin with, trying to connect a state crime to a federal crime, but it's actually a state crime. What? When there's no crime, when there's no federal crime that even existed. I mean, it's so convoluted that if I'm a federal judge, I'm looking at this saying, you cannot allow a state to do rogue prosecutions, because if they did it now, they could do it every single time a Republican was running for political office. They could make up a crime. Because that's what they did here. They made up a crime. And so that's my question that no one has answered yet. What we keep hearing, well, it would have to go through the state appellate court, initially for the appeal. And I see that, but he's out in campaigning. Once you interfere with the federal election, not only has Trump been damaged because Trump's in jail, he's in jail because of a rogue prosecution, but also, and so his civil rights have been violated at that point. And you look at it, there's so many reversible errors. I'm sure a judge would look at it and say, yeah, this has got a great possibility of being reversed, which is, again, how they put stays all the time on different things. We've seen that. That's a language that's actually used by the federal courts. And so it's Trump's civil rights to begin with, but then overall, it's the interference in a federal election. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, I mean, if Trump, like I said, if he was sentenced and they said, okay, you got to start serving your sentence now in July, and they gave him, I'm just throwing it out, 15 years in prison, because it was 134 years or whatever, something like that he could get. Well, we're giving you 15 years and you need to report next week. Then you go to the federal courts and say, I'm going to win an appeal, and so I want to stay. Now, it still stays with the New York Appellate Court. But there's a stay until it works its way, through all the way up through the federal courts. So,
guess we'll see.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.